This is my Alien Earth episode 6 reaction. This is going to contain spoilers, by the way. Yeah. This will contain spoilers.
Here we go.
The fly or flies, well, yeah, actually fly that took out the synth or hybrid Toodles or Isaac. I didn't even know when they collected that one.
You serious?
I've actually got a question to ask. How did these people successfully contain all these species on their different planetary locations? I wonder if it's just one planet they went to and acquired all these different species and creatures, or was it different planets they went to? And were the planets designated like we need to go to planet A and planet 5 and planet Raftu and planet Kukra to get these specific specimens or alien creatures, or was it just whatever you find interesting, acquire or kidnap or steal, or kidnap and you know, and snare?
That's a good question.
I don't even know what they're looking for. Is Wayland looking for a specific kind of alien creature? So therefore the expedition or the crew members don't just pick up anything they see and find fascinating. Are they looking for specific hunter alien creatures, like predator alien creatures, rather than just anything they see that seems fascinating to them? And then how do they, like, what's the process of containing one creature, for example? Like once you encounter the creature and you realize this is what it is, you study it from afar. Do they 3D print? Like, how do you measure roughly? Is it like, do you eyeball the alien size and say that's roughly, 50 centimeters by 30 centimeters? So when you go back to home base or on the huge spaceship, do they 3D print the exact container based on the exact measurements needed for the alien? And then once they've built this specific container based on the eyeballing measurements, give or take, how do they then go into the atmosphere and then kidnap the alien? Do they sedate the alien? How do they know what level of sedation they need to affect the alien, but not to destroy or infect its DNA structure? Then you capture the alien, then slowly put it into this specified glass or container, whilst also watching your backs on said planet. So that means wherever they go to, whatever planet they go to, has to have, not necessarily has to have, but it'd be wise that the planet has breathable atmosphere for the crew members. So no wonder the guy who sabotaged the spaceship in the previous episode said they lost a few people. Well, his wife, yeah, they said. But I remember another crew member said they lost a few people. I think it was the engineer said they lost a few people, so therefore they wouldn't mind just, ditching the expedition and going back home or whatever. But it's interesting to see how this expedition is so important to someone like Wayland, for example. There's this talk of everyone so wealthy and rich. Trillionaire, quintillionaire, billionaire, babillionaire, whatever you want to call it, coulinaire.
Shut up and take my money.
Whatever new word you want to use to depict how much money and power someone has. Why not just equip your spaceship with 100% androids and synths?
Don't ask questions.
How about 80% androids and then some human beings, for the aliens to devour or whatever, so the synths can study what that looks like.
Wait a minute.
Like, we just put like 5-6 human beings and maybe 20 androids or 20 synths, because we know one or two of those 5 or 6 human beings are bound to get taken out by 1 or 2 of the aliens, or just so we can see what it looks like when an egg is impregnated inside a human being outside of the xenomorph. So that way you can just see what damage the new aliens can do on a human being. I would like to know how, like, the step by step. You'd have to land on the planet, realize the creature, study it for long enough time. Like, how do you know when you land on a particular planet, this planet has predators? What is the step by step stage to scan a planet and say, hey, this planet definitely has predatory creatures that can instantly take us out?
He ain't lying.
Like the alien that is always suctioned to the ceiling. How did you get that one down without getting attacked by the thing?
That's a good question.
And then when you put it inside a glass case, how, I guess it can come off from the ceiling itself and come down and latch. It's just, this is how my brain works, because some of these creatures don't look like you can acquire them without a machine or some form of indestructible android. Like, your skin has to be practical titanium, vibranium, or adamantium. Otherwise, you're gonna get chewed through. Either by acid or by something that's so strong that one slash can just cut you in half, no matter what material it is.
That boy is good.
So as much as I'm intrigued by the show so far, I'm not even watching an alien show anymore. I'm just watching a show that has a xenomorph inside it, and it's under the moniker or umbrella of Alien. But I semi get that the allegory is supposed to be talking about that, oh, look at how dangerous these creatures are, but the worst creatures of all is mankind.
What?
And I'm so overtired of that.
Damn, son.
And I like how this show is making sure it's putting the scope on specific characters. Even Kirsch, I couldn't care less about Kirsch.
Damn.
I don't even care about the hybrids. Even Wendy, I care a little bit about, because we got to see her ponder about the Scorpion right at the start. We got to see her show. We got to see how she felt about that one little thing. Just had that one little conversation between her and Kirsch about the Scorpion right there. Just that little detail just allowed me to see, okay, this, despite a child who's ill, she's not showing compassion to the Scorpion because she's ill.
What do you mean by that?
You know, when you go through a particular thing, you realize you're temporarily incapable of a thing. It's like all of a sudden the person then starts to feel empathy for certain things that he or she didn't feel before an attack or an illness or disease or whatever. But it didn't look like it was because of a disease. That's why she now has, or she's now showing empathy towards the Scorpion. So the intrigue about the Scorpion, kill it, not kill it. I like that learning, short period, but you know, it just shows that, hey, just because this thing is a venomous creature doesn't mean you should kill it.
I don't know.
It has the right to exist just as you do.
That's right.
Normally in the natural environment, you'd have to avoid those kind of creatures as long as you don't go to their territory or wherever they are, and they wouldn't come looking for your trouble either. It's not like they just wake up one morning and say, I sense human beings in the area, let me go and sting them. Yes, these guys can kill, but I guess it's about living in harmony with these creatures and making sure you don't tamper with them, and knowing where you should live and where you should build your civilization and nation and village and blah, blah, blah. And I imagine some people will come in the comment section and say human beings have to grow and expand, whatever. You find your ways to weave in your own narrative. Cool. But the people who came before us, the ancients who came before us, lived in very hostile environments and did just fine. I'm not saying some of them didn't die. I'm not saying some of them didn't get poisoned, but they did very, very well. They had enough time to amass a lot of knowledge. They built great civilizations, so they weren't constantly afraid of vipers and anacondas and you know, spore releasing mushrooms that can mind control every creature. Super freaking giant hornets. Look at the people who live in Australia. Till this day, we see very strange videos of, you know, creatures coming out of toilets and bathrooms. I'm not saying people haven't died, but if Australia is so full of destructive creatures, then that should be an inhabitable, or is it inhabitable? That should be a place no human being should live. Or you would say, well, just find a plane and drop a particular bomb on there and just nuke every living, you know, bug in there, so that way human beings can inhabit the land. God damn! All I'm saying is I just like the way they depicted the compassion and time and care it took for Marcy to say, hey, just because this thing is potentially or is harmful, but not in this current, if you take off the glass, I don't imagine the Scorpion is going to be chasing one or two of them inside the room. I just feel, or I think naturally the Scorpion wants to find a way out of there to just do its own thing. But if you attack it or antagonize it or obstruct it, then yes, it has to defend itself, because just like all other creatures, or most of all other creatures, we have a defense mechanism, or multiple defense mechanisms.
That's right.
So at least we can see from Marcy's perspective and her brother Hermit that it's not just this whole story about all human beings are vile and mankind is bad and blah blah blah. That's your narrative. If you're satisfied with that, be satisfied with that. I don't wake up in the morning looking to go and drop bombs on children, men and women for whatever reason. It's not what I wake up in the morning thinking or feeling or just pondering. Like, I would like to find a way how to just, you know, end someone's life without having to pull a trigger. Okay, poison. Or no. Some people, yes, but I don't agree that that is a natural state or a slumbering aspect of all human beings just waiting to emerge, you know, with the right temperature. No. So this show, I'm not falling for that whole, you know, we have the xenomorph, we have the eyeball Teocellus creature, then you have the two ticks, Then you have the fly that I didn't even know was there. Then you have that I haven't seen that. I want to know what that suction thing does.
Willingly? Yes.
So yes, all these creatures are very, very they look very, very deadly and dangerous. Let's not forget that it is a number of people that they call the Five that have chosen to hire another number of people to go on a spaceship. Or one of the Five chose to pay some people or give them a particular level of incentive to entice them to go out into space, either go out into space and look for whatever you find, or to go to specific planets. And I would like to know how those specific planets were designated. Like, how do you know those planets exist without the first expedition or multiple expeditions going forward to then discover these planets? And maybe they ended up dying, and then Mother tapped into their database and the archives and realized, oh, they had encountered certain alien species, read the documentation and whatnot, and said, okay, let's send another expedition out there to go and see if we can retrieve these aliens from these specific locations that were mentioned.
What?
I would like to know how they knew these aliens existed and what they went through to acquire them. Like, each alien is inside its own container. That ain't something you do easily. You'd have to measure the alien. You'd have to at least eyeball the dimension, height, width, girth, and everything else, and then build a specific container suited to specific alien or alien form. So how do they have like this AI orbs just flying around each planet so that way they didn't have to land on the planet? Because that makes more sense. Yeah. But the way the show has depicted the crew members of this particular spaceship so far, they were, a lot of them were very, very unintelligent. A lot of them, like certain things you don't do when you're around creatures you've never encountered before.
You ain't lying.
It can take at least maybe 1 year just to understand something, maybe 10% of the creature. It could, depending on what you're studying, it could take 1 year just to grasp 10% of that creature, and there's 90% left.
Let me explain.
Wayland really rolled this dice I was so shocked. Episode 5 had me very, very shocked. And I wasn't even pissed off at the crew members. Yes, they're unintelligent, but my issue is with the mindset of the people like Wayland and Boy Cavalier and the rest of the Five, those wicked, spiteful, incompetent people. You have riches, but lack intelligence. And even intelligence will tell you there are certain things you do and there are certain things you don't do. Yeah. There are certain things you tamper with and certain things you don't tamper with. And I'm yet to see where this desire is coming from outside of the greed stuff. I'm yet to see where this desire is coming from to retrieve or kidnap and capture multiple alien species, assuming that they can live in this so that means you have to have studied the exact creatures very well to then say, once we take them out of their own habitat, these creatures can live in our own habitat.
Get this man a shield.
Because just like Superman, for example, in Man of Steel with Zack Snyder, when Kal-El entered the spaceship, or the Kryptonian spaceship, he struggled to breathe because he wasn't acclimatized to his own planetary atmosphere. And that's just under that, Superman from another planet and whatnot. So imagine other species or creatures who don't originate from Earth. That means you'd have to be very, very specific of what creature you kidnap and capture to bring into Earth's atmosphere. And what if you captured a creature that the gravity was so different for you that once you entered Earth, it got heavier or lighter, you can even hold it down unless you had to use a particular device or machine. So yeah, Wayland, boy, yeah, I'm not even looking at the show like, yep, mankind, humanity, bold, ambitious, or too bold, or using the Icarus analogy, he flew too close to the sun. I feel I'm now grown enough to be very specific when I'm watching certain things and to say, hey, I'm not going to brandish everyone and say human beings, because I myself, amongst other people, when we're watching the episodes, are like, that's not a smart decision to make.
That's right.
There's some people who are watching the show and say, I don't even know where this desire and lust is coming from to just leave where you are right now, go somewhere else, go and tamper with other creatures and then bring them back here. It's very, very unnatural for some of us. So this whole big talk of humanity and mankind, bitch, you better be very specific, you cocksuckers. You better be very, very specific. And if you're brought up in a very twisted, unkind, disorderly environment, specifically manufactured for said traits, so that way you can come out with that putrid nonsense. That makes sense. But to then try to convince me or trick me to saying that is the nature of man, if they were under the right circumstance or situation, what is happening for said right circumstance and situation to happen? What exactly is happening? Who is fine-tuning said situation, and so some God or some Allah or Jehovah or Yahweh is behind closed doors? I made these creatures, but I want them to be vile as well. Man, don't be a bitch about that shit. I get so fucking tired of someone telling me it's human nature. When I hear that, I go very, very blunt. If that's the case, everybody should wake up in the morning with the lust and the thirst for going over to another country to bomb people, end people's lives, take over their land or take over their resources, or take their families, their loved ones, their wives, their husbands, their own children. Everyone should have that burning desire to wake up when they wake up in the morning to want to do that. You can't just say human nature and then have hide behind an excuse where, oh, it's comfort or it's upbringing. It's this. Be very, very specific. This show is, for me anyway, how I'm receiving the show. It's not only talking about the whole corporation nonsense. Even that too is like another wall to hide behind. Corporation. The illusion is not only the corporation but profit. Or it's just business. Nothing personal. The mind is sick. These people have sick minds or twisted minds or minds that they've chosen to corrupt over time, and they're satisfied in said corruption. So for them, this is a norm. They're okay with it. It doesn't bother them. They're happy with it. They relish in this environment. To sit back down in your chair whilst you pay expendable people, send them on an expedition to go and retrieve very, very volatile, well, I won't say volatile, but very, very dangerous creatures in their environment, their home. But you're going to take them out of their environment. They're going to switch up their defense mechanism times 10. And then you're thinking or assuming that when you bring them into your into your environment, they'll be able to acclimatize to your surroundings and your environment.
That's a good question.
That is a level of hubris I've not encountered in a while. That is an omega level of hubris. So whilst Wayland is sat in her chair, or Boy Genius, even Boy Genius, whatever his name is, sabotaging the spaceship, even all that stuff, like you can sit there and you can just observe what Boy Cavalier is doing, and you could say, well, if I was in his shoes, I would do it like this. So there's potential there. There's a level of potential. If you were to fine tune this thing, it could become a tool for the greater good for everyone. But even hiding behind the wall or excuse of greed and this, I don't care. Just eradicate these cocksuckers. How the world is satisfied with this so-called 5 ruling them, it's still baffling to me.
You ain't lying.
I feel people should wake up in the morning and desire to learn the etymology and the true meanings of certain words that we use so much. Rulership. Royalty, king, queen. Like when you scan the blood of a king and queen, is there a specific unique blood type to these cocksucking terms that people worship without even questioning? 5 people. The 5. The fuck does that mean? The 5. And the whole human species, the human race, is just satisfied with 5 people just sat doing nonsense. And no one in the camp has sat down to do their own thinking and sit down and say, is this appropriate? What are the pros and cons of this thing? How rapidly can these creatures that this person we work for has brought into the Earth's climate, how fast can they reproduce? What if there's something or some things in this climate that will make these creatures stronger, move faster, and think quicker and better?
I like this one.
And just because of one of these 5 people's quote-unquote ambition, you've gone to go and yank 5 or multiple different creatures from their other natural environments to bring it into our own environment, and then under the moniker of to create the best and weapon and the perfect machine and perfect killing machine. For what?
That's a good question.
For what? Why don't you guys go off planet? You love Earth so much, and you like the idea of rulership and kingship and queenship, but you want to fight other people who are it's a rivalry thing, but you don't have enough intelligence to get on a spaceship, go and what do you call this thing, terraform another planet and live the fuck there. And stop playing this overlord and guru and god bullshit. I walk around the whole place where I am with my bare foot. I don't give a shit. I hope all these guys get their asses fucked over.
Damn, son.
Wayland and the other three and Boy Cavalier, I hope they all get decimated.
Yes.
In brutal ways.
You ain't lying.
In brutal ways. Because I'm done with this nonsense of humanities. The fuck you and your bullshit. You people have a very twisted minds, man. Some of you are so fucked up, you want everyone else to be fucked up like you. We don't play like that. We don't play like that, man. This episode was good. I almost felt bad for the what's his name? The Isaac hybrid. Almost felt bad. When he opened the door, tried to use his foot to wedge the door, and then push the thing inside. I mean, I was like, already, as this is where this show confuses me. Are they supposed to be intelligent? Or like, is their brain supposed to process information fast to know what to do and like what's the most appropriate and efficient way to assess a situation or to do a thing, and the least efficient way? So they're supposed to reach the most efficient way or ways quicker than a normal human being, or an android or a synth.
That's a good question.
This episode didn't display that for me with Isaac, and everyone, all the reviews I've seen, everyone said, oh, you know, he's still a child. This dude is not human anymore.
Let me explain.
They keep saying it's got a child's mind, and I like the way the show hides behind that, so people can sit down and do their own opinions. This is a machine, and if you were smart, again, part of the show's little secret weapon is that everyone appears to be smart to an extent, but they're all unintelligent, mostly incompetent. Even the one who says, I'm 2 steps ahead of you, 5 steps ahead of you, 10 steps ahead of you. A lot of people seem to have a very different description of what intelligence is. Yeah. It's one thing to read the description on paper. The other thing is to just observe on a flat line. Is this an intelligent thing to do based on your current action and the chain reaction of your current decision down the line? You open a door of a creature that you don't even know whether it can harm you or not, just because you are what you are. Why it opened the door baffled me. You don't open the door. That's why the hatch is there. And if the hatch door is broken, try and put a panel there, find a blowtorch to seal it, number one. 2, if those creatures don't eat in that particular moment, do they die? And this is where it's the hubris again of Boy Cavalier seeming to limit certain things based on these creations that it's created. Choosing a child's mind already for me is a 0. I don't care how awesome your idea is.
I don't know.
There's a level of cons that for me seem to outweigh the pros. Even if you wanted to say you're not building the best warrior or soldier as a product, I'm yet to see what this person really wants, what Boy Cavalier really wants. He's selling these products to who? To rich families too? And then what is the hope? To see what it looks like, or how to see to test the transference of children's minds into adult bodies, right? Or into hybrid bodies. Okay, cool. Once that's done, what's the real world application of the success of this thing? Do you then hand it over to adults? Because they said, unless the show is lying or indirectly, but they stated that only children can go through this process. So let's say you're selling this product to the highest, richest bidder, another quintillionier and triplinier and biblionaire. Okay, cool. You're selling it to those guys. They have a child who's sick or have children who's sick. Are you going to turn off the super strength? Because if one of those children loses their temper and lashes out at the parent, and then they realize that they have the strength, especially if they've been abused by the parent in their current human disintegrating body because of the sickness or disease they're under. Once they transfer their mind into these new bodies, if they're upset at the parent, it's game over. Like, what's your grand plan is what I'm saying. That's why I said if you're saying you're building this for robots, I mean for super soldiers in the future, then you're trying to figure out what the pros and cons are and how it works and fix the glitches and whatnot. In regards to Wendy and all the other Lost Boys hybrids, fine. But let's say you've reached the stage of perfection, and then what? Because I can't see any real world application unless it's one of those rich people who's like, I lost my daughter, or she's in a coma. I'd like to put her mind into a body, and mainly for the adults. But the show has reminded us that only children can go through this process. So if that's the truth and only truth, then I don't see I don't see an end game for having children inside these bodies, unless you give them strict tutorial on what their bodies are and teach them how to operate so they don't harm someone by mistake. Yeah. This episode just taught me, yep, everyone is unintelligent, even the hybrids. Maybe Wendy, something has happened somewhere down the line, whatever. I don't even know how they explain that. I don't know how they explain Wendy's uniqueness. She can talk to the xenomorphs. We don't know how specifically she interacted with the AI thing and the computer stuff. We don't know how that happened specifically. So the process between building these AI bodies and these hybrid bodies, we don't know what tools they put inside, what they drew from to combine, this one machine, and then to put the consciousness or copy and paste the consciousness of a dying child or a sick child. Does it have to be a sick child, a dying child, or can a healthy child's consciousness be copied over from the healthy body into a hybrid body?
That's a good question.
And then you can control the emotions and whatever they said. You can give him a little bit or too much, or you're not playing sub-level God. This desire and want and need to control other people is another sickness that some people have too much of. They have too much of it. They lack the ability. Either they lack the ability to appreciate to appreciate what they are, and live and let live, or live things as they are, or they've reached a stage where they don't care anymore and just want to see anything and everything in their sight burn. What is this need to wake up in the morning and I want to be able to tell my neighbor, bow to me? What? What is the need to control someone? Where is that coming from?
That boy is good.
It is so fucking sickening. You just want to just manipulate other people. Why don't you control yourself? What is this need to want to puppet other people? And then hear people say it's human nature. Not many people have sat down to properly study themselves, let alone to read books. And then after reading books, because these are other people's experiences, some opinions, some thoughts. A true way of understanding something is by studying it yourself. Yes, you can use different books and different people as a springboard or a stepping stone or a guidance or a nudge. But when you're sat there in the chair and you're navigating this thing yourself, then you have a better knowing of how certain things work, not just because you read it and therefore you know it. You know it because you've interacted with the thing, not because you've read a thing. So reading a thing doesn't class fully as a knowing. A knowing is with the experience and observing the thing, almost being, almost seeing the world through this thing's eye, or experiencing the world through this thing. Then you can then say, I have a level of knowing, or I know.
Get this man a shield.
This show is cool so far, but it's not what I wanted it to be. It's not what I was hoping it would be, or not what I expected it to be, which is cool. Like I said, I'm just watching a show called Alien, and with other alien species, and I don't even care about the xenomorph anymore, because some of these other creatures are far more dangerous than the xenomorph. I'm definitely going to be recording another video because there's more things to talk about. This hybrid thing opened as soon as it opened the door, I said, yeah, your goose is cooked.
Come on, son.
That was the silliest thing he could have done, especially as a hybrid machine, something that processes information better. So like if you present a problem to it, it'll solve it faster. You present a Rubik's Cube to it, it'll solve it faster. Not necessarily the speed as in move fast like the Flash, but be able to observe the thing 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 rotations and eventually figure it out. It's a very simple thing to know. Just because the hatch is messed up, you don't open the door where this alien creature has been carefully placed inside. I still like to know how they put these things inside. Like, how did they get to fly inside that room? Was it asleep?
That's a good question.
Unless there's a level of sedation you can give it to ensure, okay, it's fast asleep, it's knocked out, put it in here, boom. I personally would like to know step by step how they woke up one morning, put on their clothes, navigated the spaceship to a particular planet. All right, you land there, got your suit of armor on. I don't even think they had suit of armor on, because the spaceship we saw with Morrow and the crew members, just a bunch of regular ninnies, just out here, just No, you didn't acquire professionals, and I that makes sense, because Wayland would have faced people asking her questions. just like Boy Cavalier. They want to appear as the people who was the most powerful and smartest in the room.
That's right.
Otherwise, Wayland would have made sure her expedition had at least 20 androids or synths and maybe 5 to 6 human beings, because she knows that the possibility or likelihood of the expedition going to shit would be higher if you have more human beings than androids or synths on the spaceship.
I don't give a
Damn.
Keisha.
So even with all the money, they still chose to have more humans and then one cyborg. That to me, despite your money, is still telling me, hubris, unintelligent.
You ain't lying.
So you act as if you're intelligent, but you're unintelligent. And even if I was in her shoes, yes, I'm Wayland, I want to control the world and dominate. I want the other 4 to die, so I'm the only one with the rulership. Haha, power, me king. Fine. But when I'm sending these people out there to get this alien specimens out, however way that works, I'm making sure I'm sending professionals, because I've got the money and I've got the time to build all the androids I need.